My sister-in-law asked to host her baby shower at my home. I agreed, and then she told me to leave. She wanted to pretend my house was hers to impress a friend, but it all backfired. I am a 32-year-old woman who has been married for 3 years. I've been with my 35-year-old husband for 5 years, but he's currently living away from home for work. He returns every other weekend to spend time at home while we're doing the long-distance thing. We purchased our own home a few months ago, right before he was set to go. It's convenient for both my parents and me to see each other because it's a really lovely location and close to their home. The architecture is stunning. It's also rather roomy, which is good for me because I enjoy the sensation of living in this house even if it's just me. I enjoy living here since it's a lovely home in a great area. I received a lot of praise for my housewarming celebration as well. My sister-in-law, Carrie, 32, female, appeared to enjoy this house the most out of all of us before we had even finished unpacking and decorating it appropriately, as she couldn't stop talking about it. Although we are not close friends, I would say that we have always gotten along well. She asked me a few weeks ago if I would let her have her baby shower at my house, and I immediately said yes. I consented for a few reasons, despite the fact that we are not close. First of all, I didn't want to refuse her since she was pregnant. I also felt it would be good to meet a few new people and have a change of environment for once because I spend a lot of time alone in my house. Even taking a day off was something I did. The reason was that she insisted on holding the event at my house since she didn't want to spend a lot of money renting a location, especially when my property was so lovely. Although her own home was lovely, it was somewhat smaller and not nearly as good as the one I lived in. I couldn't bring myself to say no, so I suppose the flattery kind of worked on me. Since she had always been kind to me, I honestly had no reason to refuse, so I said yes. She did not mention anything that would imply that I was not exactly welcome at this baby shower, so even as we were organizing the entire event, I had no idea what was going to happen. She came to see me nearly every other day for the previous 2 weeks so we could sit and talk about our plans, and I was involved in the entire planning process. I participated in every aspect of the planning, from the meal and catering to the decor, and I was genuinely excited about this occasion. I had hoped that this event would strengthen our relationship, but I was taken aback at the last minute. About an hour before the guests were scheduled to begin coming on the day of the event, I assisted the decorators in setting up the space. Carrie arrived around 45 minutes before the event was scheduled to start and thanked me for everything. She was talking to me like a buddy and acting very normal even at that point. However, she turned around and asked me where I would be spending the next couple of hours, barely 15 minutes before the guests were expected to begin arriving, based on the time on the invites. Since she was hosting a baby shower at my house, I was a little taken aback and honestly believed she was kidding when she asked me that question. I had expected to be there, of course. I had even purchased a gift for her and dressed appropriately. I asked her if she was kidding, and she informed me she wasn't, looking quite serious. She made a few really good comments that I had not considered because I was too preoccupied assisting her. Carrie informed me that I wasn't even on the guest list and that I hadn't gotten an invitation. In all honesty, though, I had observed those things and had not objected since I believed that I would be invited and would participate in this event because I had assisted in its planning and was even letting her host it at my house without having to pay for a location. And why in the world would I presume that I wouldn't be attending the event? I believe that anyone in my position would have made the same assumptions, and she and I didn't have a particularly strained relationship either. She apologized for the mistake when I told her these same things, but she believed that I was attempting to assist her in a professional capacity, which didn't even make sense given that I wasn't a party planner or event organizer by trade. I work as a banker. I don't see why she would presume that of all things, although this has nothing to do with my line of work. In any event, I think my expression was expressing how upset I was. After some time, she informed me that she did not want to dispute with me because she was also pregnant and now was not the time for small-minded arguments. She also did not want to become stressed out. Since this gathering was really solely for her intimate family and friends, she informed me I had to go. She wanted this to be private and tiny, so only a very select few were permitted to be here, and I regrettably did not make the cut. Before the guests began to arrive, she ordered me to leave since she didn't want to cause a commotion and this disagreement was making her angry. I decided to call my husband right away to complain to him about his sister's recent behavior since I was so furious that I stormed out of the room. At the moment, I had nowhere else to go, so I was in the backyard. My husband was unable to answer the phone or text me about it because he was in a meeting and too busy with work to do so. I was so mad that I took a slightly unconventional approach and called her husband instead. Jim, Carrie's 33-year-old husband, has been with her for 4 years. They have been married for 2 of those years. The guy is usually quiet and reclusive, but I haven't had much interaction with him. I was furious and wanted to exact revenge on her after the incident when she instructed me to leave my own home. I made the decision to give him a call and tell him everything. He listened to me and remained silent for some time. When I had finished my tirade, I apologized profusely for telling him all of this, but I was simply dissatisfied in the way I was being treated. Maybe he would talk to her later and talk some sense into her, but I informed him what happened because I couldn't talk to her without running the risk of upsetting a pregnant woman. I felt somewhat at ease after he apologized to me on her behalf. Then he informed me that he will be over in a few minutes and that I didn't have to leave my house because it would be absurd. I only needed to wait till then because he didn't want us to argue since it would make us angry, and he didn't want that to happen. That seemed reasonable to me. Jim came at my house 15 minutes before the first guests arrived. I stepped into my house as soon as the doorbell rang, and Carrie was a little taken aback to see him. Jim stepped in and informed me that I could definitely go to the baby shower and that I didn't have to leave as the three of us stood there in the living room. When Carrie attempted to object, he simply gave her a stare, and she remained silent. I decided that I would never again interact with her because she was constantly glaring at me during our time there. I even considered calling off the baby shower, but I decided against it because I had worked hard to organize it and I did not want it to be a waste. Besides, I didn't feel the need to do it, and I didn't have the heart to do it after Jim had come. I therefore made the mental decision to simply let the evening unfold and to cut off communication with Carrie once the baby shower was over. Throughout, I remained dignified and graceful. However, I am unable to say the same about her. Anyway, Jim apologized to me again for everything long after the baby shower was ended, but Carrie wouldn't even look at me. Since I was receiving unwarranted hostility from her because she thought I didn't belong at the event and that I had pushed my way in, he also apologized for it. Even though it was really annoying to see, at least the trauma was finished. After they departed, I eventually called my husband and filled him in on everything. He was furious and wanted to talk to his sister, but I encouraged him not to worry, at least not that night, as it would just exacerbate the situation and spark more furious disputes. I only wanted a little tranquility, and that was the last thing I wanted. However, I suppose that's not in my future, at least not yet, because my in-laws called me the very next morning and were furious. They informed me that after the baby shower, when Carrie and her husband arrived home, they had a heated argument over my remarks, and that Jim had since left and was not talking to Carrie or any of her family members, including my in-laws. This was unusual because, as far as we knew, Jim got along well with his in-laws, who were his parents' longtime family friends. His entire family, however, blocked them on social media and everywhere else following their argument, making it obvious that they did not want to communicate with them. To be honest, I had no idea what I had to do with any of this. But it seems that Carrie and my in-laws thought that they wouldn't be in this predicament if I had simply accepted it and followed Carrie's instructions. Since it was so clear that Carrie was to blame and that I had nothing to do with all of this, I found it absurd that they were attempting to place the responsibility on me. Since I was well aware that this was not my fault, I ended up snapping at them and telling them that I would not accept responsibility for it. Carrie had been unappreciative of me since I had generously let her host the baby shower at my house for free. However, she chose to humiliate me by informing me that I couldn't attend an event being held at my house and that I should leave since, presumably, she didn't think I was close enough as a member of her family. This was done instead of honoring that and our relationship. And I also told them that she wouldn't have tried to attempt something like this if my husband had been around. Since her husband was the only sensible person in the circumstance, I had no reservations about informing him what she had been attempting to do. I trusted his judgment, so I knew he was making the proper choice if he had decided he had had enough and wanted to go. I didn't think I had done anything wrong, and I didn't think Jim was doing anything wrong either, so I wasn't going to try to make things better. I was in favor of him getting a divorce if that was his desire. I had no intention of speaking to him or retracting anything. Therefore, my in-laws would have to be disappointed if they called to ask me to talk to him and make things right because I was not doing any of that. I hung up after saying that, and we haven't spoken since. However, they have been making every effort to persuade me to reply to them. 2 days have passed, and although I haven't blocked them yet, I am thinking about doing so since they are telling me that whatever issues there may have been, they were between Carrie and me, and I had no business bringing him into it. Even though it's between Carrie and myself, I made the decision to tell her husband about it because he's also a member of the family, so I don't understand why he would be upset. Since she was acting rudely and ungratefully toward me, I don't think I did anything wrong by reporting her. Since I knew her husband was a sensible individual and would take action, I felt he should be aware of her behavior. They're doing everything they can to twist the truth and make me feel awful about it, but I can't help it. I don't feel guilty about what's happening to her at all. They are always reminding me that her future child may not have a father figure in their lives due of my decision. Sincerely, I believe it's a bit of a stretch, but that's how they're phrasing it, and I'm at a loss for words. My husband doesn't believe I did anything wrong, but the manner they're saying things is the only reason I haven't blocked them yet, and it's making me question myself. He has informed me that he will attempt to speak with his parents and help them understand that Carrie was at blame, not me. Instead of attempting to harm me, they ought to be supporting her and having a conversation with her about it. I don't know how to handle the matter at the moment. I don't feel sorry for them, but based on their current behavior, I don't think they'll drop this anytime soon. I just want this to be over with. I don't currently have any answers because I don't even know why Carrie did what she did. Am I the jerk for bringing up our disagreement with my sister-in-law's husband and letting him know how she was acting? Update 1. Hi, it's been nearly a week since the baby shower, and I'm back here. Jim and Carrie are now finalizing their divorce. He made the announcement on social media, which is significant even though she hasn't made a public statement about it yet. Although I didn't anticipate it happening so quickly, it appears that he has already filed the petition and that procedures will begin shortly. From what I understand, they have been living apart ever since Jim returned to reside with his parents. Even though I didn't believe it would be proper after everything that had transpired, I was able to talk to him since I felt somewhat sorry. However, after talking about it with my husband, he felt that at least one member of our family needs to get in touch with him. He was clearly keeping these channels open in case we wanted to talk to him because he and I were the only two individuals who had not been blocked. I made the decision to contact him and apologized for everything that was going on, but I didn't make it sound like an apology. Rather, I just apologized for everything. Nevertheless, he informed me that I didn't have to blame or berate myself for it because he could sense that I was feeling bad about it. For a long time, he had been on edge. I felt that I should also receive some answers, so after much deliberation, I contacted him back to inquire what was going on. Boy, did I received all the answers I had been seeking. We got on the phone, and I informed him that I needed to know more about what was happening. He believed that I should also be given some information, since I had no idea why Carrie would not want me to go to the baby shower. To the best of my knowledge, she had only mentioned one reason for not wanting me to attend. She only wanted members of her immediate family to attend. However, she had also invited a number of people who, as far as I knew, were not particularly close to her. I was aware that a large number of individuals would be present because I had reviewed the guest list. Since I had nothing against those folks and, as far as I knew, neither did they, it simply didn't make sense for me to not be one of them. Jim then explained to me that the true reason she didn't want me there was because she had anticipated one of her friends, whom she was frantically attempting to win over, there. Carrie intended to persuade her friend's husband to invest in her business as she was intending to launch her own venture only a few months after the birth of her child, and this friend had married into a rather wealthy industrialist family. She had played host to the baby shower at my house since she was trying her hardest to please this woman. She intended to claim it as her home and tell everyone so. She had wanted me out since, of course, she couldn't do it with me around. She hadn't taken into consideration the fact that I had retaliated. Fortunately, though, her companion was ill that day and was unable to go to the event at all. However, this did not excuse her from trying to be cunning. He had challenged her about what she had said to me when they had arrived home. She had explained to him that she didn't want me to attend the celebration because she didn't want to admit that the house wasn't hers and she wanted to impress her friend. To impress someone she went to school with, she was going out of her way to pretend to have a life that she didn't actually lead, acting as though everything was completely normal. Jim told her that she should not have acted in this manner and that she should apologize to me because I had been kind and she had simply made me seem foolish. However, she fought with him because she would not accept that what she had done was wrong. Her arrogant behavior had been causing them a lot of trouble, and it seems that this was not the first time she had been found attempting to pass for someone she wasn't. Jim informed me that they had reportedly been dealing with issues similar to this for the last 2 years. Something had gotten into her shortly after they were married, and ever since, she had been attempting to live above their means and demonstrate to everyone that they were wealthy and lived a lavish lifestyle in order to please those who didn't matter. It seems that she was particularly offended by some strange remarks made by some of her friends regarding the arrangements at her wedding. However, she should not be petty because she is an adult. Petty things like these shouldn't upset her, and she should have cut off these friends since they aren't true friends if they make fun of your way of life and your financial situation. Furthermore, the two of them lead normal lives. It's not as though they are living in poverty. Even though they might not be able to afford ostentatious items, I still believe they have it very nice. Carrie works at a marketing company now, but she intends to launch her own company after the baby is born. Jim is a real estate agent. She has even more justification to save money rather than spend it. They're comfortable, not rich, but that's all right, and I don't think anyone else should care. Carrie doesn't have to make an impression. There had been a lot of issues between the two of them in the last few years since Carrie continued to go out of her way to impress everyone around her, despite Jim's repeated attempts to convey these things to her. Because he loved her so much, he had always forgiven her, but in recent months, it had become harder for him to do so because they also had to consider their future child. Given their financial situation, it would be impossible for her to continue spending money as if it meant nothing when, in reality, it meant everything, and they were unable to support the lifestyle she desired. He was growing tired of the fact that she continued to buy stuff without even consulting him. After the argument following the baby shower, Jim decided he could no longer stand it and left because they had been fighting over stuff like this far too often anyhow. He informed me that I didn't have to feel bad about what I did since, given the way their marriage was going, he might have made this decision sooner or later even if I hadn't phoned him up that day. Update 2. Hello, we have been chatting since my husband got back a few hours ago. He informed me that he had maintained contact with Jim, and they have been conversing for the previous few days. Jim has made it plain that he is willing to give their marriage another try if Carrie accepts his apology for everything and agrees to attend treatment. My husband is currently attempting to explain that to his sister, but he has not yet heard back. His parents have informed him that she is simply avoiding conversation at the moment since she is quite distressed and wants some alone time. I suppose that at this moment, everyone is giving her the space she requires. I hope she makes a sensible decision, but I have no idea what she will decide. Regarding my last post, you guys accused me of being selfish because you believed that my husband and I were being avaricious by refusing to assist Jim and Carrie. First of all, I'm not even sure how many of you reached that conclusion, but let me just make it clear that we were able to buy this house because we were able to get it at a good price. We wouldn't have bought it if it had been too expensive. Second, I doubt that Jim and Carrie would mind us treating them as though they were in need of our assistance when they are in a perfectly secure financial situation. Furthermore, I don't understand why they would require our assistance or vice versa. That's simply strange and unrelated. My spouse and I are also somewhat in the same category as them. However, since some of you raised the issue, I felt compelled to provide clarification. Because you guys think Jim deserves better, some of you also didn't like that I expressed my desire for them to reconcile and get back together. Well, perhaps he does, but ultimately, it's up to him. I don't understand why so many of you feel the need to express hate on this site, calling me derogatory names and calling Jim a doormat without even knowing his true character. Despite their current difficulties, they still adore one another. I think it's quite big that they are going to have a baby together. The situation prevents them from simply dumping one another and moving on. Yes, I did, and I still hope they can resolve their differences. For now, I believe that's all I have to say. Update 3. Hi everyone, I wanted to let you know that Jim and Carrie have made the decision to reconcile and work things out. It has been over 3 weeks since I last visited this site. Despite the fact that Carrie and I are still at odds, I'm quite delighted for them. However, my husband informed me that they have made the decision to attend marriage counseling for a few months to observe the results. They will continue to live apart, but for the first several months after the baby is born, they will co-parent. If all goes according to plan, they will then move back in together, and that is how things will be. I'm pleased for them. I am aware that most people wanted Jim to leave Carrie, and I know that many of you did not want this. Fortunately for him, though, he will act in his own best interests, and everyone else will simply have to put up with it.